The road to nowhere. It was well past midnight. The radio emitted nothing but static, and the oppressive darkness outside was only pierced by the car's flickering headlights. Ethan's knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel, struggling to keep his eyes open. Beside him, Sarah was fast asleep, her rhythmic breathing the only sound of peace in the cabin. They were deep in the Oregon wilderness, driving through a dense forest of towering pines on a road that barely registered on any map. The GPS signal had died miles ago. A shortcut, they said. Ethan muttered to himself, his voice raspy from exhaustion. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. Ethan slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched against the asphalt, leaving a trail of burnt rubber. His heart hammered against his ribs. Standing in the center of the road was a woman in a tattered, old-fashioned dress, her back turned to them. "Sarah, wake up!" Ethan yelled. Sarah bolted upright. "What? What is it?" Ethan pointed through the windshield, but the road was empty. The woman was gone. Only the rustling of the bushes on the side of the road remained, as if something heavy was being dragged into the dark. "Get us out of here, Ethan. Now," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. 5 miles later, a rusted sign emerged from the fog. "Welcome to Blackwood, population 142. The town looked like a relic from the 1950s, but everything was decaying. Windows were boarded up with graying planks. Streetlights flickered rhythmically, like a dying heartbeat. Suddenly, the car's engine sputtered and died. Ethan turned the key over and over, but the car remained lifeless. "Great. Just like a damn horror movie," he snapped, hitting the steering wheel. They had no choice but to step out. The silence in the town was absolute. No crickets, no wind, just a heavy, suffocating stillness. At the end of the main street, they saw a faint light coming from an old gas station. Inside, an old man sat behind the counter, his skin as wrinkled as parchment. His eyes were milky white, clouded by cataracts, yet he turned his head exactly toward them. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice as dry as a desert grave. "They don't take kindly to new visitors." "Who?" Sarah asked, her breath hitching. The old man didn't answer. He simply pointed his bony finger toward the window. The street, which had been empty seconds ago, was now filled with shadows. They looked human, but their movements were twitchy, unnatural, like puppets on broken strings. Most terrifyingly, as they stepped into the flickering light, Ethan realized they had no faces. Just smooth, pale skin where features should have been. Panic-stricken, Ethan and Sarah ran into the back office and bolted the door. The walls were covered in yellowed newspaper clippings. Dozens of people had gone missing in this town since 1970. "We're going to be next," Sarah sobbed. Then a scratching sound began at the door, the sound of metal on metal. A voice called out from the other side. It wasn't the old man's voice. It was Ethan's own voice, perfectly replicated. "Sarah, open the door." "It's me, don't be afraid." But Ethan was standing right next to her. Whatever was outside was mimicking him with haunting precision. The door began to groan under immense pressure. Ethan spotted a small ventilation window. "Up there, go." He boosted Sarah up and scrambled through just as the door splintered into pieces. They ran into the woods, the whispers of the faceless creatures following them like a chilling breeze. Deep in the forest, they found a ruined stone church. They climbed into the bell tower, listening to the heavy thuds below. Thud, thud, thud. Every step felt like an earthquake. The creak of the stairs grew louder. Ethan gripped a rusted iron bar he found on the floor. The trap door slowly creaked open. It wasn't one of the faceless things, it was the woman from the road. She held an old oil lantern that cast long, dancing shadows. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, thousands of black beetles began to pour from her throat, spilling onto the floor. Sarah screamed until her vision went black. When she opened her eyes, she was back in the car. Ethan was driving, humming a low tune. "Sarah, wake up." "You must have been having a nightmare," he said with a warm smile. Sarah exhaled, her chest heaving. God, it felt so real. Then she glanced at the rearview mirror. Ethan had no reflection. The seat behind the wheel looked empty in the glass. She turned to look at him, and her blood turned to ice. Ethan's face was slowly smoothing over, his eyes and mouth disappearing beneath a layer of pale, featureless skin. The car sped past a sign on the roadside. "Welcome to Blackwood, population 143. The number had just gone up.